I think when it comes to gardening, especially container gardening, there's one thing that gets overlooked more often than not, and that's feeding your plants. They can't just survive on the nutrients that was in that container for the entire season. So it's one of them things that you need to keep track of, especially if you're growing things in containers. When your plants start out, the tiny little seedlings that emerge, and they feed on the seed that they came from. There's enough energy in that seed and enough nutrients to keep these little plants going until they get the first true leaves. But after that, they rely on what's in your compost. And if you're growing things in containers, that is going to deplete really quickly. Especially when you're growing plants like this. That's a courgette. And anything to do with this family rely heavily on nitrogen so they can thrive. And you can see in no time at all, these plants get really big. And the nutrients that's in this container runs out even faster. So they need topping up. Your plants aren't going to grow on water alone. And I'm one that overlooks that as well until I decided to start making notes. So today I'll go around and I'll give every plant in every container, in every greenhouse, in every raised bed some feed. Then I'll write it down, put it on your phone, put something on the fridge, pin something in greenhouse, just so you know that today everything was fed. Then 14 days later, you know it's time to do it again. And then they're getting a consistent boost of nutrients and your plants are going to grow a lot better. And let's not forget, these aren't plants that are just trying to grow, they're trying to produce fruit. So if they haven't got enough nutrients, your harvest is definitely going to suffer. And it is a thing that I used to overlook quite often. You've got to get strict with yourselves if you want to get any produce out of the plants that you're growing. And obviously there's different kinds of feed. You can get things like fish blood and bone, bone meal and grow more. And you can top dress all your plants. Just give them a sprinkling every now and again and let the water take those nutrients down. But you've also got your liquid feeds like seaweed and tomato food. And when you get these bottles, you can get some really good deals on them from various shops. They only cost you about £2, £2.50 for a bottle that's going to dilute into about 300 litres of feed, which is lots. So one capful into a watering can is going to feed a lot of plants. And we all like to eat salads through summer. But imagine living on lettuce for an entire year, which is basically water. I don't think you'd look very good or you'd feel very good. And it's the exact same thing for your plants. If you're just giving them water and no feed, then they're obviously going to struggle. So one feed once a fortnight and you're going to end up with big, strong plants that are going to fill up with fruit and supply you with free food for months. So apart from little jobs that I still need to do, like taking some of these tomato plants out and potting them on today so we can encourage faster growth, we also need to encourage faster growth by consistent feeding. So I'm going to grab my watering can, we're going to make up some diluted feed and we'll go around that container garden first and give them all a quick feed, because the nutrients in your containers are going to run out faster than the plants in ground. And you can treat virtually every plant the same, with a couple of exceptions. Don't over fertilise carrots and parsnips. That causes those plants to fork. So just give them a little bit of feed, maybe once every 3 to 4 weeks. Don't feed beans and peas in fertilisers that are high in nitrogen, because those plants disperse nitrogen into air and through the roots. So they don't really need a lot of nitrogen. And that's why I tend to use seaweed feed quite a lot. Tomato feed for tomatoes and peppers and most other plants. But I break that cycle by the first time I'll give them a feed of seaweed, and 2 weeks later I'll give everything a feed of tomato food. And in between that I'll give them some Epsom salt that's been diluted in water, because then they're getting a boost of magnesium as well, which we'll cover in a different video. But for now, it's feeding day. We're going to make up some seaweed and get these plants fed, and then we know it's done for the next fortnight. So I've got my watering can, that's a 6 litre one. But your feed also tells you on back exactly what you need to do, so you don't do it too much. And this one in particular, for tomatoes, vegetables, etc., capful to 5 litres of water, which is not far off what this is. And we don't need to be 100% exact. Little bit of feed into a big watering can, top it up with water, and repeat until you've done every single plant. And they'll thank you in produce. It just so happens that today is an overcast day, which makes it perfect for doing this. Because a lot of time you're going to be watering, you're going to be feeding your plants from above where a watering can. And if you do that in direct sunlight, you're going to burn all leaves of your plants. So when you get these days like today and it's overcast, you can just go around and water everything really quickly. But obviously, if you've got little plants like that in containers that you want to offer a little bit of feed to, you're better off using a little spray bottle for that. Or you could nominate a bottom watering tray like this. Just keep it somewhere on a shelf and half a litre with water, add a lower dosage of your tomato or seaweed feed to this, because it obviously isn't going to hold 5 litres. And then you can just place your little cells in there and let them take that straight into roots. So for your small seed trays, that's going to be a better option. But for now, I'm going to pop down to that container garden, get all these plants fed. And we'll also get these little plants fed that we've got in this other greenhouse, because they are starting to really come on now. Like these little tomato plants that are now starting to get the first set of flowers. They want to grow your fruit. So we'll get a little bit of a feed into these tomato plants because they are a good size. We'll give a bit to these tomato plants that we've got in ground. They had a bit of a feed quite recently, but while you're doing your plants, just do them all, and then you know that job's been done. And if you can, water right base of your plants, not over the top. We're definitely all looking forward to a really good potato harvest. So, don't leave those out either. Make sure everything gets a really good feed. And don't forget to keep burying these potatoes as well as they grow, because then you'll get more potatoes. One watering can of feed, and that's all these done. All your raised beds where you've got all your onions, make sure they all get a feed as well. All those shallots that you're hoping are going to split off into 5 or 6 individual bulbs. Make sure everything gets its share. And all your calabrese. If those leaves don't look very happy, it might be that they're running out of nutrition. So feed them. Your peas and your beans need a lot of energy to grow up those frames that you've created for them. So make sure they're fed too. Your strawberry plants are growing flowers to produce fruit, so you need to feed them too. And your fruit trees. And let's do these containers as well. And don't forget all those brassicas, all your cabbages that need to form a nice tight compact head. Make sure they get their share of feed as well. You know that we've got quite a lot of plants in this garden and these greenhouses. They've all just been done in 30 minutes. And all I need to do now is make a note of the date, and in 14 days time, do it all again. And by keeping that up all the way through season, your plants are going to have all the nutrients that they need to grow your biggest and best fruits that they can. So if you look at your container plants through season and notice that some of the leaves might be going a little bit yellow, it might be that they're crying out for a bit of feed. But when it comes to things like your cucumbers and your squash, they could also have a magnesium deficiency, which is easy to fix, and we will cover that in a video quite soon. But for now, everything out there has been done. We've got some little plants in here that we're going to put in a tray, and we're going to let those roots take up some feed. Then everything's done. We'll make a note, and we'll be back here in 14 days doing it all over again, because we've made a plan and we'll stick to it for the entire season. If you're interested in following progress for all these plants and more that we're going to be doing as we go through spring and summer, please hit that subscribe button, press that notifications bell, and we'll see you at next one. Take care.